The organ music swelled through the grand St. Patrick's Cathedral in Midtown Manhattan as Julian stood tall at the altar, his bride Sarah glowing beside him in ivory lace. Ryder, his best friend for 12 years, adjusted the ring box in his pocket, forcing a smile, while his heart twisted with the weight of years of quiet hope. Then the speakers crackled without warning, and Julian's own recorded voice filled the silent church, saying, "I only invited Ryder to the wedding party to make us look good, show we're progressive and open-minded, but let's be real, it's all for show. I don't need that kind of drama in my life." And the entire congregation froze in shock as faces turned from the altar to the best man standing just feet away. Gasps rippled through the pews like a wave. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth, her veil trembling. Julian's mother clutched her pearls, her conservative Texas roots showing in a tight line of her lips. Ryder felt the floor tilt beneath him, every word slicing deeper than any knife. He had flown in from his quiet life in Brooklyn 2 days earlier, excited beyond measure, when Julian had asked him to be best man 6 months ago. Now the truth hung in the air, raw and ugly. Julian had used him. Used their friendship, the late-night talks after college parties, the time Ryder had held him through his first real heartbreak, all of it reduced to a photo op for appearances. Ryder stepped back, his polished shoes scraping the marble. The priest stood speechless, the Bible still open in his hands. Cameras flashed from the back where distant cousins recorded the disaster for social media. Julian turned slowly, his face pale, his groom boutonniere suddenly ridiculous against the panic in his eyes. "Ryder, I can explain," he started, but his voice cracked. Explain what? That their bond, the one thing Ryder had clung to through his own coming-out struggles, family rejection, and lonely nights, was nothing more than a prop. In the stunned silence, Ryder remembered the first time they met at New York University freshman orientation. Julian, a tall, confident pre-law student from a wealthy Houston family, had bumped into him in the dorm lounge, spilling coffee everywhere. "Sorry, man," Julian had laughed, offering a hand. Ryder, the quiet art major from a small town in upstate New York, had smiled back, feeling an instant connection. Over 4 years, they became inseparable, studying together, traveling to Europe that summer after junior year, sharing secrets under city stars. Ryder had fallen hard but kept it hidden, especially after that one drunken kiss their senior year that Julian later dismissed as nothing, just college experimentation. Now standing in the cathedral, Ryder felt every suppressed emotion surge forward. He had accepted the invitation because he still cared, because he believed in their friendship, because he wanted to see Julian happy, even if it meant watching him marry someone else. But this betrayal exposed everything. Julian's family had always been polite but distant, their old money values clashing with Ryder's open gay identity. Julian had once joked that inviting Ryder would shut up the liberal partners at his law firm who questioned his traditional engagement. Ryder had laughed it off then. Now the recording proved it was never a joke. Sarah turned to Julian, her voice barely a whisper. "Is this true?" Julian's mouth opened, but no sound came. His father, Marcus Sr., a stern oil executive, stood up from the front row, his face red. "This is a family matter," he growled, motioning for security. But the damage was done. Guests whispered, phones out, recording every second. Ryder felt tears burn but refused to let them fall. He had paid the price for loving someone who could never love him back, not fully. Now the world saw the cost. Julian had chosen appearances over truth, and in that moment the wedding that was supposed to be perfect collapsed before a single vow was spoken. The priest cleared his throat, attempting to restore order, but it was useless. Ryder turned and walked down the aisle, head high, shoulders straight, even as his chest ached with the weight of lost years. Behind him, Julian called his name once, twice, but the words dissolved into the chaos. Outside on Fifth Avenue, the spring sun shone bright, mocking the storm inside. Ryder hailed a cab, his mind racing through every decision that led here, the choice to stay silent about his feelings, the choice to trust, the choice to attend. Each one had its price, and today he paid the heaviest. Back in his Brooklyn apartment 2 hours later, Ryder sat on the edge of his couch, still in the navy suit, the fabric now wrinkled from the cab ride. His phone buzzed, non-stop texts from mutual friends who had witnessed the disaster. "Did you know? Is Julian really like that?" He ignored them all, staring instead at the framed photo on his shelf, the one from their graduation day, both of them laughing, arms around each other. How had he missed the signs? 6 months ago, when Julian called from his office in Midtown, the excitement in his voice had seemed genuine. "Hey, buddy, I need you at my wedding. Best man. No one else I'd trust more." Ryder had said yes without hesitation, his heart soaring, even though he knew Sarah was the one walking down the aisle. Julian had grown up under intense pressure. His father expected him to follow the family path: law school, then the firm, then a suitable marriage to someone like Sarah, whose own family owned half of Connecticut real estate. Julian had confided once during a late-night whiskey talk that his parents had threatened to cut him off if he ever strayed from the plan. Ryder understood pressure. His own parents back in Albany had stopped speaking to him after he came out at 22, calling it a phase that would ruin their small business reputation. He had built his graphic design career alone, proving them wrong one client at a time. The recording had been made 3 weeks earlier at Julian's bachelor party in the Hamptons. Ryder hadn't attended that weekend work deadline, but Julian had apparently vented to his brother Marcus after too many drinks. The phone had been left on voice memo by accident, or maybe Marcus had hit record deliberately to have leverage. Either way, the words were out. "I love Sarah, but this whole wedding thing needs to look perfect. Inviting Ryder makes me seem tolerant, for the firm in the photos. He's a good guy, but it's not like we're that close anymore. It's just for show." Ryder replayed the words in his head, feeling each one like a fresh wound. He had thought they were close. He had flown to Houston for Julian's father's birthday last year, endured the awkward questions about his dating life, smiled through the thinly veiled disapproval. He had helped Julian pick the engagement ring, spent hours listening to wedding plans, all while swallowing his own feelings, the ones that had never fully died. Now he wondered if Julian had ever seen him as more than a convenient accessory. Across the city in the bridal suite, the Plaza Hotel, Julian paced the room, his tux jacket discarded, Sarah's tear-stained face watching him from the chaise. "I didn't mean for it to come out like that," he said, his voice hoarse. "It was stupid drunk talk. Marcus should never have. Sarah cut him off. But was it true, Julian? Did you invite him just to look good?" Julian stopped, pacing, his shoulders slumping. "At first, maybe. Dad kept saying the firm partners were watching how I handled diversity. But then it became real. He's my friend." Sarah shook her head. "Friends don't say those things, even drunk. You hurt him deeply today. And you hurt me." Julian's mind raced back to their college days, the night they had kissed on the rooftop of the dorm after finals. He had pulled away, claiming it was the beer, the moment, the confusion of youth. In truth, he had felt something, but fear of his father's disappointment, fear of losing the family money the expected life had won. He chose the safe path, proposed to Sarah 6 months after graduation, built the image of the perfect son. Inviting Ryder had seemed harmless, a way to quiet the voices in his head and the whispers at work. Now the price was clear. His bride doubting him, his best friend, shattered his reputation in tatters. That evening, Ryder received a text from Julian. "Please meet me. We need to talk." He stared at the screen for 10 minutes, then typed back, "No." Some decisions could not be undone. Some prices were too high to pay again. The next morning, the story had exploded online. "Gay best friend token at society wedding" headlines screamed across gossip sites. Ryder scrolled through them in his kitchen, coffee untouched. Comments ranged from outrage at Julian to pity for him. He closed the laptop and called his therapist, the one he had seen since coming out. The session helped, but the ache remained. He had always known their friendship was uneven, Julian, the golden boy, Ryder, the loyal shadow. But he had chosen to stay, chosen to support, chosen to hope. Each choice carried its own cost, and yesterday he had paid in public humiliation. Julian sat in his father's study in their Upper East Side townhouse, the older man lecturing without pause. "You have embarrassed this family, Julian. That recording makes you look weak and insincere. The firm called this morning. Partners are questioning your judgment." Julian stared at the Persian rug, remembering how his father had once threatened to disown him over a minor rebellion in high school. He had learned early that conformity bought peace. Inviting Ryder had been another calculation in that long game. Now the calculation had backfired. Sarah had gone to her parents' house in Greenwich, refusing his calls. Her father, a retired judge, had texted one line, "Fix this, or the engagement is off." Julian felt the walls closing in. He had sacrificed authenticity for approval, and today he saw the full cost: career, family, love, all teetering. Ryder spent the day walking the Brooklyn Bridge, the wind off the East River, clearing his head. He thought about the moral dilemma he now faced. Should he forgive and preserve the friendship, or walk away and protect his dignity. His own family had taught him silence led to resentment. He chose honesty years ago, and though painful, it had freed him. Perhaps Julian needed the same lesson. 3 days later, Julian showed up at Ryder's door unannounced, his eyes bloodshot. Ryder let him in, but kept the conversation in the living room, no offer of coffee. Julian spoke first. "I was wrong. The words were stupid. I was scared of what people would think." Ryder listened, feeling the old pull of loyalty, but also the new steel of self-respect. "You use me, Julian, for our optics, for your image. Every time I stood beside you at events, every time I defended you to my friends who warned me you were straight and unavailable, it was real for me." Julian flinched. "I know. I should have been honest. About everything." The conversation stretched into hours, unearthing buried truths. Julian admitted the college kiss had meant more than he let on, but family pressure had crushed it. Ryder confessed his feelings had never faded. Both men faced the reality that their choices had cost them years of potential honesty. Julian left promising to make it right, but Ryder knew words were cheap. Actions and their consequences were what mattered now. The following week, Julian issued a public statement apologizing to Ryder, committing to real allyship at his firm. Sarah agreed to couples counseling. But the damage lingered. Ryder lost a major client who read the headlines and questioned his professionalism. He faced it head-on, pitching new work with quiet determination. The price of trust broken was steep, but he paid it by rebuilding stronger. Julian met with his father, and for the first time pushed back, refusing to disinvite Ryder from future family events. The confrontation left him exhausted but liberated. He realized performative acceptance hurt everyone more than honest boundaries ever could. Ryder and Julian met again, this time on neutral ground, Central Park. The conversation was raw, Julian admitting he had betrayed not just Ryder, but himself by living a life dictated by fear. Ryder shared how the incident forced him to confront his pattern of accepting less than he deserved. Both men walked away, changed, the friendship altered but perhaps salvageable on new terms. Sarah and Julian postponed the wedding. She needed time to trust again. Julian began therapy, addressing the deep-rooted pressure from his upbringing. Ryder started dating someone new, a kind illustrator who saw him fully. The experience taught him the value of choosing people who chose him back without conditions. Months later, at a quiet coffee shop in Williamsburg, Ryder and Julian sat across from each other as friends, no longer best man and groom, but two men who had survived betrayal and emerged wiser. Julian had left the family firm, starting his own practice focused on LGBTQ rights cases, a true reflection of growth. Ryder had launched a successful exhibition featuring artwork inspired by resilience. They had both paid heavy prices, Julian losing status and temporary love, Ryder enduring public pain and self-doubt. Yet the awakening had been worth it. In the end, true acceptance could never be faked. Was inviting someone out of performative reasons ever justified if it led to such devastating betrayal, or was honest rejection the kinder choice in the long run?